Every workflow starts by pulling your data into Parabola, and this mirrors how you already work today. Before opening Excel, you first have to go into a system and export a CSV file, or open your inbox and download an attachment. When you're building in Parabola, the first step is no different, and that is the P in the flow framework. First, we need to pull in our data, and then we can go ahead and clean, combine, transform, and ultimately send it off. The goal of this lesson is for you to understand the different methods for pulling data into Parabola, and in particular, which of those methods is going to be the fastest and easiest as you get started building your first flow. There are four different broad categories of data sources that you can use to pull your data into Parabola. Those include static files, email, integrations and APIs, and other Parabola flows. And now the goal here isn't to memorize all of these specific options, but more so understand the world of the possible before we focus in on what's truly going to be the fastest and easiest as you build your first flow. Static files refer to data that you already have saved on your computer that's quick and easy to access. This usually looks like a CSV, Excel, or PDF file. Email is a super useful data source for teams that regularly receive spreadsheets and PDFs via email, often coming from third parties. Every Parabola flow comes with its own dedicated email address, and anytime an email is sent to that address, Parabola will automatically pull in data from the attachment, as well as information about the email itself, such as the sender, subject line, and body of the email. Integrations and APIs allow you to pull live data from the tools that you use every day. Parabola connects to thousands of different tools, and to set up an integration, you can drop a step on the canvas, double-click to open, and click the blue Authorize button to connect your account. Finally, once you've built a truly valuable flow in Parabola, you can pass data from one flow to another using Parabola tables. These are like databases that live in Parabola, and you can imagine having one flow where maybe you blend data from 3 different sources, you send it to a Parabola table, and then you have another flow that pulls data from that same table and then uses it for downstream reporting. Those are the 4 categories of data sources in Parabola: static files, email, integrations and APIs, and other Parabola flows. For the time being, static files are the only one that I want you to be concerned about. For your first flow, doing something like uploading a CSV file is going to be the fastest and easiest way to get your data into Parabola, and your first flow is all about getting a quick win and building momentum. From there, once you've found success, it's easy to swap that static file for a live integration or a dynamic data source. Now that we understand the different options for pulling in our data, let's talk about how we actually get these steps onto the canvas and start building our flow. There are 3 main ways to actually get your first step on the canvas to start pulling data in Parabola. First, you can explain in plain language where you'd like to actually pull your data from. Second, you can drag and drop files directly onto the canvas. Or finally, you can just search in the search bar for your data source. Let's look at a quick example of each of the 3 different methods. To pull in data using plain language, we can just tell Parabola exactly where we'd like to pull data from. Here, I'm going to say I need to pull in data from Google Drive and an Excel file. A couple seconds later, we can see Parabola added the right steps directly to the canvas. You can also drag and drop static files directly onto the canvas, and this is how I'd recommend uploading your data when you build your first flow. In this example, I'm just going to grab a CSV file on my desktop, drag and drop it onto Parabola, and then we can start looking at our data uploaded immediately. Finally, we can also search to find our data source. S is the shortcut for search, and then maybe I'll search for Google Drive in this example. We find the right step, and then can drag and drop it directly onto the canvas. Now that we understand the different methods of uploading data into Parabola, let's go ahead and upload some sample data that we'll use for the remainder of this course. We'll focus on building out a parcel invoice audit, so we'll upload shipment data as well as our rate card. We could absolutely pull in these data sets by writing a prompt and saying we want to pull in 2 CSVs, but in this example, I'll go ahead and search for CSV and drag a pull from CSV step onto the canvas. I can double click to open the step, and then I'll go ahead and upload our shipment data. Now that we've uploaded that data, we can see we have over 1,000 rows here and information like the invoice number, the order number, different weights, pricing zones, and the rate that was actually charged on a specific shipment. We'll also go ahead and upload our rate card data, and I'm just going to drag this from my downloads directly onto the canvas to pull this data into Parabola. In this dataset, you can see we have all of our quoted rates here, which are based on a package's weight, the pricing zone, and the shipping method. We'll revisit these datasets throughout the course, but for now, let's wrap up with key takeaways. You now know that there are 4 different ways to pull your data into Parabola, and I'd strongly recommend building your first flow with static data. The biggest leverage from Parabola doesn't necessarily come from automated data pulls. Yes, that is valuable, but where customers see the most leverage is in automating all of the meaty logic that happens in between your pull and your send steps. By starting with static data, you'll start to experience that magic really, really quickly. You've also learned about the different ways to pull data into Parabola, from prompting to drag and dropping on the canvas to just searching for the step that you'd like to use. Finally, before we wrap up, make sure to complete the building challenge at the bottom of this page where we'll actually pull data into your Parabola flow. Up next, we'll visit the next step of PCCTS and we'll clean the data that we just uploaded.